Hello everyone, so in this video we will be discussing the fundamental concepts of the classes, objects, and methods of Java programming. So when we say concepts, these are just the general notions or the overview of the classes, objects, and methods. So we will just be discussing this one in a theoretical setting and in order for us just to understand what are the classes, objects, and methods of the Java programming. So now let's start with the programming terminology. So here we have computer program. It is said to be the set of instructions that you write to tell a computer what to do. So an example of computer programs are the C++, the Java programming. That is an example of a computer program because we are writing a code in order for us to tell the computer what we would want them to do. So we also have the syntax. Syntax are the rules about how language elements are combined correctly to produce usable statements. Each programming language has different syntaxes that they are following. In C++, they has different syntax. They have a quite different syntax with the Java programming. Now, we also have the syntax error. This includes misspelling of keyword or omitting a word that a statement requires. So, for example, when you try to write a code and you forgot to write the semicolon, that is already an example of a syntax error because in most of the programming languages, especially in Java, they would require that each line of the code will have a semicolon. So when you try to omit or forgot the semicolon there, then that would already produce an error, and that is what we call the syntax error. So we also have the debugging. Is said to be so we also have the debugging. So debugging is said to be repairing of syntax errors. So um, those errors that we have, that is what we call the bugs. And when you try to fix those bugs, that is what we call debugging. So debugging means repairing of syntax errors or fixing the errors that you have. We also have the logic error, which is another type of error in programming, and this is a bug or error that allows a program to run, but that causes the program to operate incorrectly. So, for example, if you would try to code and you would want the computer to answer what is 1 plus 1, and the output of your program is 5, that is what we call the logic error. The program still runs, however, the output of your program is incorrect. So probably there's something wrong with the logic of your program or the usage of the logic in your program. So that is what we call the logic error. Next one is understanding the classes. So class is a term that describes a group or collection of objects with common properties. So in the same way that a blueprint exists before any houses are built from it, so um, class are more likely be linked to a blueprint of a house because blueprint exists before we even started a house, or even a recipe is there before a cookie or a cake is baked. So classes are also there before the objects. So we also have the class definition. This describes what attribute its objects will have and what objects will be able to do. So when you say attribute, this means that this is the characteristics or properties of the object. So for example of an object is, let's say for example we have a dog. So what are the characteristics of the dog? Are they furry, or do they sleep a lot? So those are some characteristics or the properties of the objects that we have. Now let's move on to understanding the objects. So object is said to be a specific, concrete instance of a class. So object, these are the things inside the class. And for example for that is in real life a car is an object. The car has attributes. Attributes, again, meaning the properties of the object. And this is an example of the attributes of a car is the weight, the color, how many wheels does they have, and that's that's just some example of an attribute of an object, which is the car. And methods, the methods of the car, or the things that the car can do, or the features of a car is we can drive, we can have a brake, then you can turn on the horn. So that is just an example of the methods of the car. So we have here a more concrete example of what are the classes and what is an object. So as you can see here, we have the dog class definition. So class definition, this includes the properties or the attributes of our object, which is the dog. Since here the attributes of the dog is written, we have the name, the age, the breed, the shot status. So these are the properties that we need in order for us to know the type of dog that we have. So this examples here, these are different classes or different categories of dogs. So when you say instances, that is just another term of objects. So we have the dog instance here, which is the first one, which is the name. Its name is Ginger. The age is 6. The breed is Akita. And shot status is up to date. Shot status. So these are an example of the properties of the or the attributes of the dogs that we have. We also have the Bowser, that is age 2, breed is retriever, and shell status is up to date. We also have different instance or different property of the dog, which is Roxy, and the age is 1, the breed is Beagle, and shot status is up to date. So these are just the difference between the class definition and the object. So the objects has their own properties, has their own attributes, and the class definition will just tell us kung ano yung mga kailangan natin ng properties from the object. So here, kailangan natin na properties ni name, ni age, the breed, and the shot status. So that is the difference between the class definition and the objects. Now let's move on to understanding the method. So, method is a self-contained block of program code which are used to perform certain actions which are known as functions. So, basically in C++, when you have already undergone the C++, you can differentiate or you can relate method as functions in C++. Basically, methods are just functions. They have the set of codes. They also have the set of codes with certain actions in there. It is also a block of code which only runs when it is called. And it passes data known as parameters into a method. And for example, we have a dog might have methods for barking, sleeping, walking, and etc. So basically, si method, siya yung may laman ng actions or something that the program would do. So dyan nilalagay yung mga programming code for the actions of each objects. So that is what methods mean. In creating method, we must declare the method within a class and defined with the name of the method followed by a parenthesis. So the name of a method followed by a parenthesis, when you see the parenthesis with the name of the method, that is the representation of a method. Always meron siyang parenthesis. So we have here an example of the program or the code of a method. So we have here the public class and my class, that is the name of the class. We have the my method here. My method is the name of the method that we use. Again, the name of the method plus the parenthesis beside it, that is method. So from here, basically, it's the same with the function. Again, you need to declare that above or sa labas ng main method. So you need to declare it here. The static here means that the method belongs to the my class and not an object of the my class. So this is just a palatandaan na si my method hindi siya object ni my class kundi part siya ni my class na class. We also have the void. Void means that this method does not have a return value. Hindi niya kailangan mag-return ng value to the main method. But later on, you'll study or we will discuss more on the return value along the discussions that we have. So again, my method is the name of the method, and static is just a representation that this class or this my method is not an object of the my class. And void means that we don't have to return any value. Next is we have calling a method. So again, calling a method, this is just the same with calling a function in C++. So basically has the same work or has the same function. We need to write the method's name followed by the two parentheses and a semicolon. So we already know this one in how we write a method. So from here, as you can see, inside the class, we have the method. But above the main method, sa labas ng main method, doon natin i-code si method na ginawa natin. So as you can see from here, we have the my method, and sa loob ng method, meron siyang ina-output na I just got executed. So meaning to say, when you try to call my method, kung tatawagin mo si my method, mag-output lang siya ng I just got executed. So from this one, for example, we have the main method. So there's no need to write again the system out that println here inside sa main method because meron na siyang output for this method already. So what you just need to do is tawagin mo lang yung method name, and then that will already output what is written inside the method my method. So just like here, tinawag niya si my method. And then, if i-run natin yung program, ang output lang natin or output lang ng code na to is just the I just got executed. Because, as you can see, tinawag natin si my method, pero si my method, may laman siya na I just got executed. So, meaning to say, yung laman ni my method, siya lang din yung i-execute or i-perform ni main method. So, that is how we call a method. So meaning to say, if you have a lot of methods here, you can just call that inside the main method and it will perform itself. Okay, so that is how we call a method. A method can also be called multiple times. So unlike saying na system.out.println I just got executed here, if you want to output that multiple of times, then you have to copy paste the system out.println here as many times as you would want. But here you can just call the functions anytime or call the method anytime in order for you to perform what is inside the method. So that is the convenience that the method brings. So we have here the method parameters. These are the information information can be passed to methods as parameter. Parameters act as variables inside the method. So the parameters are specified after the method name inside the parentheses. You can add as many parameters as you want, just separate them with a comma. So, sa loob ng parentheses ng ating method, doon natin ilalagay yung parameters na kailangan natin for the code. So, for example, we have here the example code of a parameter. As you can see from earlier, we don't have a code inside the parentheses sa method name natin. But here, we already have the string fname, meaning to say this is the first name. And kailangan natin si first name. Kailangan natin ang parameter na first name. So from here, if you would print my method Liam here means siya na yung laman ni method or the parameter here inside the method. So as you can see, if you try to run this one and then Ang output ni my method is meron siyang system.out.println, and then the first name, and then the static or the constant string, which is refsness. So whenever you output my method here, and then you put the names, these names here are automatically understood as the first name that you are asking from the method. So when you try to run this one, this is the output. We have Liam refsness. Again, F name will be replaced by Liam here. Jenny will be replaced by the F name here, and then additional constant string, which is refsness, and as well as Anja. So that is how parameters work in methods. Basically, what you need, yan din yung kailangan nating lagyan, which is Liam, Jenny, and Anja. Okay, so we have here the method in returning values. So earlier, the void keyword used in the example indicates that the method should not return a value. But if you want the method to return a value, you can use a primitive data type such as int, char, double, float, something like that, instead of void. Void, again, does not return any value, and use the return keyword inside the method. So for example, if you would want to for the method to have one parameter only, in this case, this one. So if you can observe, the void earlier was replaced by int since we are using the return keyword. Again, you cannot use the return keyword if this is a void, because void cannot return any values. But here, since we are using a primitive data type, in this case, this is int, now we can use the return. And also, if you would use data types here, or the primitive data types here, you need to also use the word return, meaning to say you would be returning or you will be passing some values to our main method. So from here, the parameter inside our method is int x, meaning to say x should be an integer. So from here, it says return 5 plus x, meaning to say when we call the method here, inside this already has the 5. We already have the value 5. So when you put 3 here, when you put a value or an integer value, this means the value inside here is the value that you would replace by the variable. Okay, again, since naglagay tayo ng integer here, meaning to say yung integer natin dito, i-replace natin siya sa variable x. So since this method would return 5 plus x, meaning to say we already have the 5 plus the value or the integer value inside the method. So when you output this one, it would output 8 because it will plus the 5 and the 3 here. And as you can observe, hindi natin dito pina-output because we are just returning a value. So we will have the output statement inside the main method. So that gives us the output 8 because that is 5 plus 3. Now, the same case with two parameters, we have the x and the y, both are integers, so we will be using the primitive data type int, and it will return x plus y. So meaning to say, whatever the value of x and the y, it will just add up. So from here, we have, as you can see from the method is called here, and we declare the value 5 and 3. Meaning to say, when we output this one, or we try to run this program, it will just output the sum of 5 and 3. Because as you can see from here, it is int x, and int y. So in the return value, we have x plus y, meaning to say the 5 and the 3 will just be added, so the output will be 8. So that is how returning of values and parameters work. Now, we also have returning values result in a variable. So as you can see from here, it has the same parameters with the earlier example. We have int x and int y. Here, we also return x plus y in the main method. And we are just putting the value inside another variable. And in this one, same case lang siya actually ni two parameters. However, dito, ni-store lang natin or nilagay lang natin yung value or yung result ng method natin inside another variable. And then yung variable, siya na yung tinawag natin in order for the output to produce the sum of the two integers, which is 8. So it's basically the same, however, we just store or nilagay lang natin sa variable z ang value ni x and y. So that's how return of methods or methods with return parameters works. So I hope this is clear with all of you, and I'll see you on the next videos related to Java programming.